Hey, it's Trey Bolin with Origin Stories. I'm all about new beginnings, fresh starts, pivots, redirections, all the things that happen at the very beginning. I love to know where you came from. Everyone has an origin story, and I can't wait to hear yours. Hey, Jody, how's it going?
Great. Trey, how are you?
Good. I am super excited to have this conversation to talk a little bit more about what you do, what you're passionate about, and how that all came to be.
Oh,
So
wow.
excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited. Now I have to think of all of that and get it all straight in my head so it makes sense when I say it.
Don't worry. We'll take everybody on a journey together. So
Wonderful.
let's talk a little bit about the events that kind of shaped your journey, brought you to where you are now. So what inspired you in the beginning of what you do? Or maybe we should just start with what do you do?
Yeah, sure. I've been in business for over 25 years in marketing and in human resources. Just a long, intricate story of how that kind of wove together, marketing and HR. You don't think of those two things together, but
No.
it's very strange. I know, but I had an opportunity to work for an organization in marketing that really needed help in talent acquisition, and they said, "Well, that's kind of marketing. Well, we throw the marketing guy in there, sure."
Yeah.
And so we did, and it kind of worked, and I fell in love with HR, and so that led me to HR, which led me to opportunities to also plan events and do some really exciting things with our employees. That led me to my passion, which is public speaking and really being in front of a crowd, just motivating, talking about just
Yeah.
things that inspire people. I had the opportunity to meet a really awesome public speaker. He's a Hall of Famer. His name's Steve Gilliland, and Steve just inspired me to do it. And he kind of became my mentor. And to this day, he will reach out to me, and I'll reach out to him, and we'll swap stories and we'll talk about speaking. And I'm just always inspired by him, and that's kind of led me to my podcast. Has kind of led me to some opportunities to speak at companies, at conferences, and it's led me in a very different direction where I'm going to be actually on Abundant TV doing some commentary for a Christian professional wrestling organization, which is really
That is so awesome.
it's
I
out
love
there.
the twists and turns, right? Our life isn't linear. And
Yeah.
I love that there's pivots and shifts, and one thing leads to the next. And you're like, how did I end up doing commentary for wrestling? Here we
Right.
are.
Yeah, it's the twists and turns that really make it interesting, and
Yes.
just looking back and not only seeing the path that I've taken, but kind of seeing how God has guided me down
Mm,
this path and these curves, and I could not have navigated this path on my own. There's no way. I'm too linear. You talk about life
yeah.
not being linear. Well, I'm a linear person, and so I would have just been head down, one thing, let's go.
Mm.
But God just leads us in directions to where He's going to use us in very powerful, challenging ways, and that's kind of the story that I've been on.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And you mentioned having a mentor.
Mhm.
So I'm really curious about that. Like, as far as having a mentor, did you just like walk up to him and say, "Hey, I want you to mentor me"? Like, how did that happen? I'm actually a very forward person, and
Yep.
that's how I reached out to one of my people that became my mentor. I was like, "Hey, I'm looking to grow in this area. Will you help me in da 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 da?" Is that how
One
yours rolled out too?
100% yes, absolutely. And that was really, you mentioned you're just very forward. It's easy for you. It wasn't easy for me because I really wasn't sure that public speaking is what I wanted to do. I wanted to inspire, and I wanted to be able to reach people on a level the way that he did. I just
Yeah.
didn't know that I could really get up in front of people and speak. Because in the past, I've always been that person that's been very nervous to do that. I had the shaky voice, the knees would knock, all the nervousness was there. But when the message is so powerful, and
Mm,
it really is a message that I feel like God lays on your heart,
mm.
then the nervousness kind of fades, and
It
you can
melts
use
away.
it does. It melts away, and then whatever's left, you can use as energy. And suddenly
Mhm.
you're a dynamic speaker because you're just trying to get the energy out, and you're just very active.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and and so, yeah, I decided I'm just gonna go for it, and I sent him an email. He came and he spoke for our company. And I said, I want to do what you do. So, like, am I crazy? What advice would you have? And the first thing he said was, don't quit your day job. And I was like, "Oh, well,
Great
thanks."
advice.
But it actually was great advice. It wa
Yes.
it wasn't a snarky comment. It was, "Hey, this is gonna take time. You have to practice." Then he said, "Join Toastmasters. That's where you practice. That's the easiest way to get practice." And then just do it. You have to do
Yeah.
it. You have to get stage time over and over and over again
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
you're used to being in front of people, that you can deal with whatever nervousness is there, and you
Yeah.
can also adjust on the fly to the audience, and that's probably
Mhm.
the hardest thing, but the most important thing. If
Yeah.
you know who you're speaking to, and you kind of know that the message you want to deliver is going to be delivered in a different way to this audience than to this one, you have to be able to adjust to do that, and that takes practice.
I love that, knowing your audience. The other thing that I love what you said about funneling and channeling that nervous energy. I know when I was doing my first speech class and being homeschooled, my first speech class was actually in college, and I was like, I did not want to do this. And my
Mhm.
mom, who is a great speaker, was like, "Hey, I failed out a speech class in high school. I took an E. I didn't want to talk." And she said, but something that she learned on her journey as an entrepreneur was that the same energy that's coursing through your body for nervousness and scared and fear is the same as excitement.
Yep.
And she's like, I just tell myself, I am so excited to
Yes.
share this, that this energy just turns into excitement. And once she said that to me, I was like, yes, that's it. I'm taking it. I'm taking that. I'm just excited. My body is just can't wait to share whatever it is that I have to share. You can fool yourself.
You really can, and it's important to do so because, and it's true not only for nervousness, but other things that kind of hinder us, like fear. If
Yeah.
we're afraid to have a conversation, or we're fearful to especially a difficult conversation, if we
Yeah.
can take that fear and just turn that into energy, that difficult conversation becomes something really powerful that you need to have, and that probably the other
Mhm.
person needed to hear. Fear, self doubt, shame is another one. Oh my gosh, if you can take shame and you can reverse it and turn it into energy, the
Mhm.
way that you apply that energy is so powerful. It's just going to catapult you forward.
Exactly, exactly. And I know that we can mentally kind of get into a space where we can overcome fear. We can overcome different feelings and emotions that we have by calling them out. Like,
Yep.
okay, I do not have to be afraid. Here's the facts of this situation. And our emotions just get too involved.
Yep.
I'm curious, do you have an example that you'd like to share of overcoming fear or shame when you were speaking or sharing?
Wow. I'm constantly battling shame.
Mm,
I'm very hard on myself, and I
mm,
always feel like the more I achieve, the more I think people expect of me, and so that can be very difficult when it comes
yeah,
to speaking, because you get in front of an audience, you kind of nail a speech, you kind of know you nail it, and people
yeah.
come up to you and say, "Wow, that was so great." The next one, you're like, "Oh, I've got to be better than that. Oh, I've got to be better than that." And when you're
Wow.
not, that feeling of, "Ah, well, maybe I'm just not cut out for this," and that
Mhm,
self-doubt creeps in. All of those things are up here. It's in our head. You got to get
mhm.
it out of that. And that's what I tell people that ask me, how do I get over the nervousness of speaking, or how do I get over the fear and the insecurity? Is just to recognize that it's all self-imposed. No one's coming to hear you fail. Your audience is your biggest cheerleader.
Yes. Yes. We're
Once
all
we
there to support and
absolutely.
want to be there. Like,
Yeah.
people don't normally sit in an audience going, "Wow, I don't wanna be here," right?
And even if they do, it's not usually because of the person speaking. It's usually because they'd rather be somewhere else doing, playing video games or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
But it's not, no one comes to an event and says, "Boy, I really hope they bomb this one. I want to see that." And
Right.
and we think that. We think people are
Mhm.
judging us. We think people are questioning the way we sound, the words that we use, our vocabulary, and at the end of the day, they just want to hear from you, and they want
Yeah.
to hear the authentic, genuine you.
Exactly. So I'm curious, what is Toastmasters like? I've always been interested as a person who likes to speak and likes to share and feel like it comes naturally. What is Toastmasters like?
Oh, Toastmasters is fantastic. There are just hundreds of thousands of clubs all over the world, probably between 15 to 20 people per club, a good club, a good healthy club. And they have a very rigid schedule. And so every person plays a role, and you'll play a different role every meeting. You can be an evaluator, you can be a timer, you can be a speaker, of course. And it's really broken into three sections. The first section is for really practicing that improv. It's called table topics. And so you'll have someone who is the table topic master. They'll have questions, random questions, and they could be fun, funny questions. They could be serious questions, whatever. And they ask a question and they'll call on a member of Toastmasters. You have 2 to 3 minutes to answer. And it doesn't really matter what you answer, it's how well you think on your feet. It's practicing that ability to come up with something on the fly, articulate it in a way that is powerful. And so your first time doing it, it's not going to be very good. Mine wasn't at all. But it helps you, even if you're not going to be a speaker, it helps you in your leadership skills, because if you're sitting in a meeting and the boss says, "Hey, tell me about that project," I don't know. No,
Mhm.
you have that practice, you have that repetition, those repetitions to say, okay, I can come up with this. I can give you a 2 to 3 minute elevator speech and just nail it. So that's
Yeah,
table topics. And then there are prepared
so fun.
speeches. They're 5 to 7 minutes, any topic you want. There, Toastmasters has a guided, what they call pathways that help you go through. So if you want to practice humorous speeches, or you want to practice influencing your audience, things like that, you go through lessons and you do speeches based on that. And then
Mm,
the third part is the most important, and the part I love the most is evaluations. It's getting the feedback. Feedback
mm.
is amazing, and you learn from so many people. And I love to hear other people's feedback, because I'll say, "Huh, oh, yeah, I do that too. I need to make note of that." And so it's just a wonderful, supportive meeting to help you become a better leader, and a better speaker.
That's incredible. Thanks for sharing about
Yeah.
Toastmasters. It makes me want to like figure out if there's one near me and how can I be a part of that? It sounds like the perfect game night, honestly.
Oh, it kind of is. I mean, if you're kind of into that wanting to improve
Sharing.
and sharing, if you're you're open, even if you're
Mhm.
not, it's such a supportive environment that you will be. And you can go to toastmasters.org, and they have a search for a club, and you can find a club near you. I guarantee you there's a club near you. There's clubs
That's
all over the
awesome.
world, and they have contests. I was able to compete in the World Championship of Public Speaking. I got to go meet people from all around the world. I was lucky enough to make it to the semifinals. I didn't make it to finals, but that was
Wow.
okay. It was incredible. I mean, it was just an amazing opportunity, and so much feedback, so many supportive people in Toastmasters. I love it.
That's amazing. Now, when you were talking about those first couple speeches, do you remember any of those?
I do actually. Yeah, the very first speech, they call it an icebreaker. And the icebreaker, to really ease you into your first speech, should be just you telling everyone in the club about yourself. And so it's a comfortable subject. No
Mhm.
one knows you better than you. And so you don't have to do research. You don't have So you start off just, here's me. And it can be anything. It can be, I've heard icebreakers of people that have moved from the north down here to the south. I've heard
Mm,
icebreakers about people's dogs. It could be whatever you want it to be that you want to share with people. And so it's an easier first step, that you don't have to worry about the subject. It's just getting over doing that first speech.
right. That's awesome. I know that when I am helping people with their branding, helping them to understand it's really a story all about you,
Mhm.
and
Yep,
you are your brand. Let's not imagine something else for you.
that's
Let's
right.
just share who you are.
Yeah,
Like you were saying
yeah,
before, it's that authenticity that pulls people into you, that you're showing who you are. I received the worst advice ever from somebody who was trying to be so helpful. And she was like, if you want to be a luxury brand owner, buy luxury items. And I was like, no, actually that's not going to work for me. Um, and I've just really found that sharing these plastic bracelets, I bought a whole bunch of them, and then if someone says that they like them, I just give them one because
yeah,
I want to be an encouragement,
yeah.
and that's me, that's my heart, to encourage and to help people feel seen. But I can't imagine trying to develop a brand in that way, because it's that authenticity and
Yeah.
you being you that will attract people to you.
Yeah, it has to be authentic. Brand people fall in love with brands because of who the brand is. And that's true for personal brands, it's true for businesses. And a lot of people will say, and I've gotten this a lot because coming from the marketing world, is that
Yep.
oh, brand is a marketing thing. No, it's not. It's a
No.
thing for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone impacts the brand. And we can't define it, right? I mean, I can't define my personal brand. I can define what I want it to be, but
Hmm.
ultimately, brand is how people feel about you. And I
Yep.
can't tell Trey how to feel about Jody. Trey's going to feel about Jody based on the experiences Trey has with
Right.
Jody, right? So
Exactly.
all I can do is try to influence those experiences, and that
Hmm.
really develops the brand. And so I love branding. So I love that you brought it up because it's one of my keynotes. I love personal brand. I can talk about it for days, just
Me
like
too.
speaking. But yeah, I love just the process of telling your story.
Hmm.
People think all the time, well, nothing. Well, I'm not interesting. Nothing about
Not
me.
true.
So not true. There is only one you, and that's it. You're so unique. So
Exactly.
you are so every single person has a story that other people want to hear. And we may not think it's interesting because we know the story and
Hmm.
we've told it, we've heard it over, we've lived it. But other
Right.
people are hearing it for the first time. It's incredible. And that's some of the fun of Toastmasters is mentoring young speakers who come and say, well, I could talk about this, but it's not a big deal. No, it's an incredibly big deal. I want to hear about that. Tell me more. And they do. And it's just an incredible story. And wow, love that.
Right, exactly. And I love that part about that I'm hearing, that mentoring,
Mm.
that pouring into someone else. And I think that's a part of the entrepreneur journey as well, where we are helping someone else and then they're in turn helping us, not because we're transactional, but because we care about each other, we want to help each other. And that's where I think small business is different than big business.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah. I mean, the small business world is just, I mean, it really is. It reminds me, honestly, and I used to work for a credit union. You think about a credit union versus a bank. A bank is, you think of a bank as like this large corporation. They're trying to, the shareholder, they got to meet profits, and the shareholders keep them happy. And credit unions are owned by members. And one of the things that I loved about the credit union movement was the motto of people helping people.
Mm,
And I take that, I use it, I stole it. I mean, I'll be honest, I stole it from the credit union world, and I use it all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, we're people helping people. It's all we are, buddy. That's what we do. And that's really the mantra of small business. It's, if
yes.
anyone thinks entrepreneurs, it's it's so funny. I think people have two perceptions about entrepreneurs, and these are people that aren't entrepreneurs. One is that you make a lot of money, and two is that you have all the time in the world.
Yes.
And usually neither one's true. So you have to help each other, and sometimes in order to survive. It really is, and it's not
Yes.
transactional. Like you said, it's not transactional. It's just for that mutual betterment.
Yes. And the heart connections and the business
Yeah,
friends. I keep quoting my friend Val. She's like, I want to collect business friends. And I was like, that is exactly it.
yeah,
These are business friendships. It has more stick than a relationship or a
yes.
transactional, right? Where you hired me, I hired you, and then we're done.
Then we're
And
done,
that was
right?
the thing that I didn't like about thinking about business as just a ledger and an income outgoing. I these heart connections, this deeper relationship, that's what I wanted my business to be. So many people were talking about, let's get in, do the pictures, boom boom boom, wham bam, thank you ma'am. And I was
Right.
like, that doesn't work for me,
Mm-mm.
because I want to
And
be your photographer forever, because I want to be obsessed with you and your family, and you be obsessed with me in all the best ways, not in the like stalker hottie behind the bushes,
right.
but in the like, I loved our time together. Let's do it
Yeah,
again next year,
yeah.
and that's what I think, the heart. connections of business,
It is, and the heart connections of business are the ones that last and will continue to be your repeat customers, and like you said, will turn into friends, and I'll tell you what else they'll do, and you know this very well. They will then refer you to others who are like you and like them in terms of how they think about business, and referrals like that are so valuable. Some of the
Exactly.
best speaking opportunities I've had have come from other companies or other conferences that I've had the opportunity to speak at that have referred me to someone say, "Hey, Johnny, you need to talk to Jody because he came and spoke and it was great and here's what he talked about." And then all of the sudden I have a fan from someone who I've never met
Yep.
because of that referral. And it's just great. It's a great way to do business. It's a great way to um, to really have an opportunity to also pour into people, and not just from a business standpoint, but from a spiritual
Yes.
standpoint. It's just so incredibly important to build those networks and relationships.
Well, and with my new partnership with Moira Renee with helping people with
Mhm.
step up referrals,
Yep.
I have that same heart of if this is a community that we're building, let it be based on relationship. Let
Mm.
it be this pay it forward attitude that isn't transactional, that is relational, that goes deeper than the bottom line.
Right.
And isn't that someone I want to work with? Isn't that someone that I want to be connected with? Someone that's thinking, how can I better serve you? And how can I
Yep.
have that heart outward to what is it that I can do to make your life better? And I'm so thankful for this connection that I have with Maury, with the project that we're working on. And then for people like you that have that same heart of connecting and
Mhm.
developing true relationships. It's so amazing.
It's amazing, and it really, I mean, it just really brings you into an opportunity of just harmony with people, right? I mean, and I can't think of another word for it. It's harmony. It's coming together, believing in similar things, really trying to accomplish similar things, and and like you said, it's when one of us is down and really needs bailing out that the others come in and pick them up,
Yeah,
because one day that's going to be you that's down and you're going to need them to
exactly.
come in and pick you up, and it's so powerful, and I just come back to that mutual betterment.
Mhm.
Mutually we're going to make each other better, and that's just you can't beat that. You don't get that when you're, whether you're working for large organizations or customers of large organizations. They're going to have their policies and they're going to do it their
Yep.
way, and that's the way they do it,
Yeah.
and there's no give in that. And I get it. For
Yep.
large companies, you kind of have to have that because you can't really monitor the returns on those things. But as a small business, you can't work without that
Yes.
relationship. You have to have that.
And we have that opportunity to make a change. And for me, I was always in jobs that were forward facing customer relations, but I
Mhm.
always had to do what the boss wanted me to do.
Yep.
And now, as my own business owner for almost 14 years, I can do what I want to do. It
Sure.
and be that relational, not in every single aspect, because we still got to have some things that we
Yep.
hold to, that we're not just like a pushover. But at the
Right.
same time, I I can break my policy or change my policy,
Mhm.
or see that that policy didn't work and say, yeah, I want something different, and I think that can be a really exciting thing as a business owner to grow in,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
see
for
the
sure.
shift and to change.
Yeah, 100%. And then, and two, if you're in the right relationships, you'll never have to worry about being a pushover because the other person would never think of taking advantage of you like that.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's how you know that you've made that right connection, and
Yep.
that you're doing the thing that you were created for.
Right, right. And that's such a great feeling to know that you're
It's
you're taking all of your gifts that you've been given and you're pouring into yourself, you're developing those gifts in a way that shine outwardly to help other people.
so
And
true.
and it comes
And
back too.
it does. It does. It always comes back to you. This has been such an amazing conversation. I hate for it to end, but we do have to wind down. So I have one question that I'd love to ask you.
Okay.
As you're thinking about the person who's listening to this, and maybe they're like you, they want to get into public speaking, what would be that advice? I know you mentioned Toastmasters. So is there anything else that you would encourage them with?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand your why. Why do you want to be in public speaking? If you want to be in public speaking because you want to travel and make a lot of money, then I would say you're probably not thinking about the right whys. Um,
Yeah.
is that possible? Sure, it's possible. There are a lot of great public speakers who travel a lot and make a lot of money, but any of them that are worth their salt will tell you that's not why they're doing it.
Hmm.
Understand the message that you want to convey, and
Yeah.
that's their why. When I think of speakers like my mentor Steve Gilliland, who has done it for 25 years and has made a lot of money doing it and traveled the world, he always comes back to his passion, and his passion is being able to inspire and motivate a crowd to the point where, and I've seen it happen, people are moved to tears
Amazing.
because he's changed their life, and it lasts so much longer than just walking to the door, right?
Yeah.
It's life changing. So think about your why. Think about the message that you want to share. If you're worried about the nervousness, and the Toastmasters is the way to go to get over
Yeah.
that. That comes with practice, but you really need to think about why you're in it in the first place and what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. And how can we get connected with you, Jody?
You can connect with me on my website, www.jodypowellspeaks.com. That's Jody. A lot of people are like, how do you spell Jody? Is it IE? Is it I? Is it Y? Jody. But
Awesome.
you can connect with me on my website. There's sample reels, sizzle reels of me speaking there. There's my podcast is on there that you were a wonderful guest of last week, which I was so thankful for. And then also there's a contact me if you're interested in booking me for speaking. You can do that at my website.
Thanks so much for joining us. This was awesome. Oh my
Thank
gosh.